was speaking to a client that told me he had $100,000 on the bank for 10 years, and essentially he wasn't aware of the situation. So what happens is the money loses value around 3% per year in terms of purchase power. So with $100,000, it was losing $3,000 per year. And essentially, in 4 years, it's a bit more than $10,000 that is losing on purchase power. Now, if you look into the number on the bank account, if the money sitting there just remains on the same amount, so you really don't see this. The way to understand what really happens is to think about what you could buy with that amount of money. That's what purchase power is referring to. So essentially, you can understand that if you wanted to buy, for example, a house 10 years ago with $100,000, you would be likely to buy a small flat and eventually even save some of the money for yourself. But today, if you want to buy a small flat with that amount, you can't. Just not enough right now. So money, if it's on the bank or at the house, is losing these 3% in purchase power per year, and just going down over time and doesn't stop. So the only way to actually offset this trend that is happening for the past 100 years is to actually invest the money. Because the only way money doesn't go down in value if you invest in something. So what most people do all around the world, they have a lot of cash and they don't have use for the cash long term. They allocate the money to investment funds, and pretty much they have their own structure in which the money is there, exactly like you have the money on the bank. The difference is the investment funds invest your money and give you a big part of the returns that the money is making. While on the bank, they still invest your money anyways, but they keep all the returns for themselves. So essentially, you are in a system in which your money is being invested. You're just not gaining anything out of it. So this is a reality that unfortunately a lot of people are in, but they're not aware because no one is telling us these things. Actually, there's people speaking about this, but we have to actually get a deep research to understand what is really going on. Because at the surface level, no one really knows. So, in my case, as I mentioned before, I have my own investment fund structure. So I personally have my allocation of my money in the way that I decide to do. But yeah, you have a number of investment funds all around the world, and you have very famous people with big investment funds, like Ray Dalio in United States, that has one of the biggest investment funds that you can find. They're pretty much in all parts of the world, just like a bank. But yeah, this is an important concept, and this is why people are essentially getting screwed over time. There's no way to actually offset this trend if we have the money saved on the bank or at the house. The money was initially created as a meaning of a change. So the money was a tool created to facilitate people to exchange things. So instead of me trying to trade like eggs that I have for a chicken that I want, I can just use money. And this way, all the trades that we could make would just be facilitated over this system that is the money. But money is not a source, is not a tool for us to actually store purchase power or store wealth. So what this means is over time, because money loses value, you shouldn't be saving it. But again, this is something that no one tells us. And essentially, this is what really fractionalize the world between wealth classes. Rich people are aware of this and they allocate their money to investment funds, or they buy houses, properties. Mid class, low class, they don't have money that is enough for them to buy a house. They could have bought a house actually. Some people could have had some money that was enough to buy houses or flats, but that was like some years ago. Today they can't even do that anymore with the money that is sitting on the bank. So if the money was invested on a house, what would happen is, as you may see, like from 10 years to now, you get prices of the houses going up in significant terms. So essentially, if you could buy a small flat with $100,000 in some location, like today, it could be close to triple the same amount or twice the same amount compared to what it was 10 years ago. And again, these trends, they're not really fixed. That's why it's so hard to measure. So what we all know is that investments go up in value over time, but you will always have these situations in which the trend may reverse for a short period of time. What happened in situations like COVID, for example, in which houses lost value rapidly over a very short period of time. But essentially, if people don't really panic, which the media really tries to make people panic, but if people don't, they will understand that over time, investments will just keep going on its own trend, which is to go up. But this is the reality of the world. The world is essentially fooling people to make them think they should store money the way they do. That's why people today struggle so much with their finances and pretty much the money they have. And yeah, it's something that no one's really teaching, and people should be taught about these things on school. But I also mentioned this concept in which essentially if everyone was being told how the money system works and what you could do to optimize money, essentially there wouldn't be people that would want to work for companies of other people. And the system in which we are is essentially it was created on industrial times. to make people being like produced over time to work on companies so that the owners of the companies could make the money. So we all know that the real money is in terms of quantity. That's what I mean. The real quantity of money is just being going to the companies, because if everyone is having a salary on a company, it means you're providing more money to the company than what the company is paying you. Because if this wasn't the case, they will just put you out of the company. So this is a reality. Again, it's not even about the work system you have. You can still be working for a company. But as long as you put your money to work by allocating the money to investment funds, over time you will see that will change your life. Because instead of going against the flow, you will be actually going with the flow on the same direction. So we don't really have to swim all our lives against the flow. This is what we were convinced to do, but looking to the side, you can see there's people not doing this. And if you follow the people that are not really in the flow, swimming and struggling against it, you understand that they're doing something fundamentally different from the rest of the people. And this is the way they allocate their wealth. This is the most fundamental principle for you to change your life in terms of either choosing to struggle or not in this financial system. And it's pretty much free for everyone to do these changes. I know there's a lot of people that tend to think that it's too hard to do. Again, we don't even need to understand how money works. We don't need to understand how investments work. All we need to do is to put our money into another hand, which is the one of the investment funds, instead of having the money in the bank. And it's only for the money that you have no use to apply. So if you have money that you need or you will need, that money should just stay on the bank as it is. But if you have money that you're not even using 5 to 10 years or even more, just put it on an investment fund. And again, these places, you can contact them. They don't necessarily restrict your money for that period of time. So you can actually get an understanding of how they apply in terms of their own internal operations with your money. You may not have your money restricted. But the thing is, because investments tend to go up, and it's almost granted they go up on a 5 to 10 year gap, that's why everyone is speaking about this time frame in their mind. So actually you make money on investments if the money stays there for this period of time, regardless of the place in which the money is. It's almost granted. And the way they allocate the money is a very safe and sure to make money over time way. And again, it's like I mentioned before. I know this sounds risky because people have this in their minds. Oh, it's risky to invest. But what is risky is for you to have the money on the bank. Because you see what's happening. You see that some generations ago, people were able to buy houses. You would have people that could work for 3, 4 months and be having enough cash for them to actually buy a house without asking for a bank loan. And this was happening, I think, was 1 or 2 generations ago in the United States. Right now, if you want to buy a house, I don't know how it is there actually in the current situation, but I think it would take some years for you to buy without a loan. And we're speaking about in some other places in the world, you're essentially getting a loan from the bank in which you're paying a lot. You're paying 3 times the amount that the house is worth if you're paying the house for 40 years. So this means people are asking for a loan to the bank to get into the house that it's not theirs till they actually finish the payment, but at least they get to use the house for that period. But yeah, you must pay it for your entire life working. And if something happens and you can't pay the house to the bank, they just take it away and you lose all the money that it was like just being used for the payment. So this is something that generations ago people would look at this and think this is crazy, absolutely no sense. But it's our reality today. And again, if we don't look into big time frames, we keep being blinded by this short time frame we have in our brains, that we are just rushing on the stress of the daily life. We're not even like seeing anything. This is all a narrative that is being applied. People are convinced that they have to run and keep running all their lives, not thinking the way they're doing. They should just do all like pretty much everyone does. And they think that's the right thing to do. Again, there's people not even running, there's people not even walking. All you have to do is to follow those people. That's what I was convinced to do as I was looking to the side, was watching people even before 30 having way more cash than what people can have in 40 years working their entire lives. If there's some people that are able to do this, there's a way out. It's not about who you are. It's about what you decide to do with your life and the money that you have. And the risk that we all have is to lose it all sitting on the bank. This is the certainty we